myself, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Plymouth Plantation. They don't have actors there anymore. It used to be just actors with a few buildings. There was a development that happened, and then there was too much expense in keeping up the grounds versus paying the actors. Because back when my grandmother worked there, and she's on the cover of this 1977 Plymouth Plantation book, like wood was rotting away, the stairs were definitely unsafe. But that's how I met my grandmother, was by an immersive narrative storyteller first, right? So as a 2-year-old, that was my expectation, that was my entry point, which I like to stroke my ego and tell myself is similar to like when Tony Hawk saw his brother skate inside the pool, and 2-year-old Tony Hawk just said, well, that's what you do, which was not what you just did. His brothers were revolutionary. My mother's a psychologist. She helped develop statistical psychology. You got those tests when you were in school that said, like, do you drink on the weekends? Are you using unprotected sex? She helped develop that stuff. And my father gave me a value for the arts and philosophy. We read Lord of the Rings. He gave me a value for aesthetics and the power that they have. So that's kind of what I'm coming in here with tonight. I'm a big fan of Carl Jung. I think that it is an underused resource in today. And the ideas that Jung has given us is like the keys to the castle, the crayons to recreate worlds. So I was working with Lesley University. It took me 10 years. I have a lot of disabilities. I have every disability on the books. So it's taken me so long to become your friend. Great. So, you know, that was a huge struggle. That was a huge struggle. And on top of that, like, I didn't get glasses until I was in 5th grade, and I had massive stigmatism. So I was one of the wayward children, right, that just couldn't do well in a school prioritized with, I love math, and I love science, but it's typically like math, science, social studies, and then da-da-da, and then you have like art and music, and then way down here in the bottom, we put drama and dance. That might be a mistake. It might be a mistake. So, you know, I'm doing these things. I've been working with kids. I started teaching when I was 13. I'm 40 now, and I've been picked up LARP as a tool in early 2000. I didn't know what I was doing at first. I was teaching at a gig in Western Mass, being this guy called Dr. Wormhole. I would teach science. It was Doc Brown mixed with Johnny Depp from Sleep No More, right? Okay, and I said, wow, this is powerful. Kids actually care about what I'm teaching them. What if I did this in the classroom and I tried to do some kind of weirdo Harry Potter thing? So that became Dr. Wormhole's School of Magic and blah, blah, whatever. And I had a lot of weird friends in Western Mass, like with esoteric studies, who were teaching tarot cards and winemaking, da, da, da. I still didn't know what I was doing until, lo and behold, a student taught me what LARP was. I went to my first Boffer LARP, which was Craythorn, back in 2000. So that's kind of like brought me into this whole world. And as an educator my whole life, I kind of was like super bored with everything. I was trained to be a fine artist, and I was bored of teaching painting. The kids didn't like it, I didn't like it. We do this thing, we do this thing, we do this thing, now it's done. Very conveyor belt, very isolationist, right? Because if you have a test, and you look at Amanda's answer, that's cheating. But in this world, that's called collaboration. Right? So that something wasn't striking me. I didn't like education at all. I had a hard time with it. I was in the principal's office a lot. It wasn't until I was a senior where I had a teacher in psychology who basically said, hey guys, standardized testing is about to fall down the pipe. So you're the last class I get to teach this curriculum to. I can never teach this curriculum again. This guy who made me a D student to an A student because of the curriculum he was teaching couldn't teach it ever again. And new things were happening that just didn't match up, right? Because kids now, you're the classic Toyota Camry 2007. We're pumping them out in little eggshells. They're not working together. Your age is more important than your actual educational level. So something was like striking me, and I didn't have an answer, but maybe it's because, we're working with the system that was developed during the Enlightenment of industrialization. Maybe because our school system, because before that there was no schools, was made during a time to get people into factories. And it was a radical idea, like, we're just going to educate everyone for free. It was a great idea, but that technology and mindset has become arcane. So, here's some people, they're talking about what you can do with art. Armstrong, we're talking about multiple intelligences using different lenses, so we're putting values on things like dance, because it's kinesthetic language. We're talking about multiple literacies, educations. Some people need to dance to think, right? Some people need to draw to think. Some people need to do math to think. Some people need to act to think. And that all these different things actually communicate to different things within our being. So this child, as we all were, with their own geniusness, okay? So I'm into this book here, Breaking Point and Beyond. It's an old book. It talks about change, and it talks about our era right now in change. And how change even changes. And how ideas that used to not be good then become critical as a literacy to move forward. It's kind of a side part of Amanda's thing, but like this idea of having critical literacies and what they are, and then the small detail of like we're teaching up against the construct that puts these expectations on how education should look. How should we raise children for the future? How do we tell them to live their lives in a world where economics is changing every 5 weeks? Where globalization is happening, but we still need to have some kind of cultural identity. So, the resolutions are this kind of idea of, okay, if I have an immersive, multi-intelligence platform, I'm going to hit all those levels of education. I'm going to speak to every child. If I have play, I'm going to enjoy what I'm doing. I'm going to learn faster. I'm going to learn better. My neural netting is going to link together. I'm going to create a dream weaver of neural netting, which will then capture more data and success. Right? Those breakthroughs at your job, those breakthroughs you have in your personal life and relationships, they don't come when you're like, I hate my life. They come when you're inspired, you're excited, you're activated. And then the community part, everyone has to have voice, everyone has to have agency. That whole pyramid scheme of education, which look, it was a great idea. We started making schools, this idea of academics, and then academics made this bridge though, you're educated or you're not, you're smart or you're not, and that affected economics and resourcing. So it became that we were trained to be in a pyramid scheme and not work with each other. Don't look at Amanda's answers and don't ask your questions, be your own individual power. That's not going to work in a 20th century skill set world. So we have our point for immersive arts, we have our points for learning through play. I actually came to know all those points about process drama through Wilhelm's lens. And it was great to hear it through your eyes. Thank you for that today. I really appreciate that. But these ideas of if I play, I'm going to learn it better, and I'm going to learn at different levels. And then the agency part, which is like, we got to give everybody a voice, because all learning is social. We're designed as humans to connect with these mirror neurons to learn through interacting with each other. We could learn through interacting with ourselves, right? But if we look at statistics gathered in books like How to Win Friends and Influence People that talk about how, I think it's 89% of engineers are more capable than the other 11%. But that 11% has social skills and works well with others. And they get all the credit in the success. That's very frustrating if you're introvert, shy, just don't like people because you like animals, or you just like data and you can't express your ideas. That's very frustrating because no one gave you the skill set because you were doing so well at the top of the pyramid of one technology literacy that you just kind of went in that hole. Okay, so my argument here, which I don't think I need to sell you on, is that we're talking about critical literacies that develop 21st century skills. And LARP is a structure, a scaffolding, a platform that just does that. No argument. You know, it's so easy to come in today, right? Because we talked about one thing, which was, I wrote down conceptual limits that are made through our confines of our identity, our self-value, our value with community, and our purpose, and how do we get beyond those and grow, right? And then we came in with EduLARP, and looking at how it is in the classroom, and that, yes, maybe there's some things that are lost, but it's superior platform. But it's still up against this confined of the Enlightenment industrialization, arguably the military-industrial complex of education, right? We're creating, and like, by the way, how valuable is a BA these days, right? Because everyone has one now. There's more education, more educators than ever. And so, it's like a high school diploma. You're not guaranteed a job. It used to be, in the 1950s, you get a diploma and you'd have a job if you wanted one. I didn't want one. But like, I never had a job. But like, you know, now it's like you need a master's or a PhD or forget about it, we're not gonna set you up for life. Kids get this. I've been working with kids for over 20 years. They get it, they're frustrated. They're inheriting a dying world and they're told, even if I play by your rules, I'm not guaranteed anything. So why should I care? So that's it. That's my whole thing. These are all the books that are in this. I can give you a list of those if you're interested. But I've been working with the middle school youth and teens and adults and families, mostly in the Boston metro area. Of course, that's limited. I'd love to get to Dorchester. This stuff does take a little bit of funding. I have worked with Goddard before, and I have worked with the inner city kids, and I think it will work great. And I found that it works with well-off kids as well, because they're excited and they're bored and they want to be interacted with. And so the main concept here is that instead of trying to make education LARP fit education models, I know, I'm radical here. I went to Leslie, I'm an artist. I'm 40 and I still look like this. Imagine me at 20, my poor mother, okay? Is that those educational models are outdated and old technology. You're going online with Windows 95. It was decent, I know. But it's 2018, it's not gonna work. And I think that's basically what I got. This is a rule book that I made to kind of teach this model. So this rule book has values and models in place. It's being rewritten every year. All those people wrote it. And the idea is that the LARP itself, and this is, middle school kids love fantasy. I find older kids like apocalypse settings, and adults really like things that challenge morality. So the models that I do is I do a fantasy one, I do a dystopian one, and I do a deep space sci-fi one. I'm trying to work with those populations. And so this book is made to put curriculum in it, instead of put it in curriculum. The classroom's the community, not the building. That's it. You can contact me there, corporateventureprogram@gmail.com. Do I have more time?
2 minutes.
2 minutes? Can I show a video?
Yeah, sure.
Hell yeah, that's show you something my kids made last year. So you gotta understand, like, part of what's making this successful is in generational education. You know, I have high schoolers working with middle schoolers, and I'm teaching adults to work with high schoolers, and eventually I'll just phase myself out and no one will need me. It'll be awesome. Unless I totally don't even have it. Oh, I don't have it. My apologies. Okay. Yeah, basically what I'm showing you guys is my thesis paper that I just put out last year. It's on the website if you want to look at it. It's 86 pages. I don't say it's good, again, but there's stuff in there. Thank you guys so much.